Welcome on in, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. A little later start time tonight. Apologize for that on my end. Um, got a little caught up in some fantasy football on my own, getting into the trading habits. You know how it is this time of year, and I'm sure that my co-host here can also understand how it is. Billy Brisbane, how's it going, buddy?
It's going very well tonight. How are you doing? It's been a pretty crazy week. Big fight this weekend. We got Khabib versus Gaethje. I know you're not an MMA person, but it's in Abu Dhabi time, so it's kind of thrown off my week timing wise. But how about you? How's your week been so far?
It's been pretty good. I've really been working like I said in fantasy leagues, making trades and trying to put myself in a position to win. So um, good, and I've had better weeks, obviously. Not the greatest week ever, but no, I mean pretty solid to this point. No school this week, so thank God I get a 1 week reprieve here before I go back into two more master's courses since my schooling is set up in blocks. I kind of like it a little better that way because, it gives you a false sense of time moving fast. Like you're still doing the same amount of classes in the same amount of time, but two classes over 7 weeks, like 7 weeks goes by pretty quick.
Yeah.
So definitely. Bill, you want what is Abu Dhabi time? Like how many hours difference? So we're on the East Coast. So just for anyone listening on
So
the West
the
Coast.
card starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then the main card starts at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And Abu Dhabi time, that would be like prime time, 7 o'clock prelims, and then 11 o'clock main time starts. So whatever the math differential is on that. But the only reason why it's like that is because Khabib is such a big draw. He's kind of like the LeBron James of MMA.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he's fighting over there in the Middle East, he's big time money over there. So they changed the start time because they're getting more views out in the Middle East than they would be in America if they changed the start time. It's
No, that
pretty crazy, to be honest with you, if you think about it, because everything kind of really runs on American time.
yeah, for sure. I don't mean to brag, but we're kind of the leaders in creating entertainment. So, um, yeah, it's interesting though because like you said, he's such a big name. I mean, I don't know MMA like you do, but obviously I know who Khabib is or Khabib and his history as a fighter. So I can definitely imagine the impact that him fighting in Abu Dhabi is going to have on timing. Because works hard in everything. Has a big impact for sure. All right, guys. Getting into today's episode, we're going to be looking ahead to week 7. We're going to take a quick look back on week 6. Some big news. I mean, not big. Today was actually, or this past week was pretty light on news in general. Like, there's a few injuries, but nothing like what we have seen in weeks to this point. And if you're watching right now, too, you see both Billy and I at this point have avatars instead of our actual videos. For some reason, my camera decided to not work for today's video, so we decided to roll with it, and then Billy uh, decided to twin with me, even though he has an actual avatar here on StreamYard and I don't. So Billy looks a little better than I do at the moment, but yeah, a little out of shape this week. We'll work on that and get that fixed for next weekend. All right, Bill, let's have our quick little icebreaker here and just talk about where you can find us looking ahead. You know, obviously, we say it every week. Follow the show at Dynasty Force Pod. Find us on YouTube as well, Dynasty Force Podcast. The episodes are always live on YouTube as well. But you also get the video if you want to check it out there afterwards. Bill, do you want to, talk about what you got going on? You mentioned the big Khabib fight heading into the weekend, but anything else going on your Twitter?
Yeah, man. They can follow me over on Twitter at Getting Bills. I got a lot of things going on. A couple videos this week for FanDuel. I got the head-to-head in the cage series going on this week, bringing on Bobby Gomez. He runs some stuff over there for Run. I think it's Run Sports DFS. That's the name of the company. So other than that, I got some plays going out on my Twitter and stuff like that. Should be a pretty fun week. Pretty active week. Got a lot of videos that I'm retweeting, different news stuff that they have going on at Pub Sports Radio. Like tonight, there's an MMA show. They have some football stuff going on over there. So it's a pretty active week for me, man. One of the more active ones that I had in a pretty long time.
That's great, though. The more content, the better for not only for you and your exposure, but also for everyone tuning in for that content. So it's great to hear.
Thank you.
And then follow me at Fantasy Force FB. I will have my weekly matchup breakdown back this week. I didn't have it last week with my finals in school, but this week it will be back. Likely going to be posted tomorrow. So if you're listening Thursday night or after, you can likely check my pinned tweet on my profile at Fantasy Force FB and find it there if you're looking for it. And obviously, feel free to comment at me, DM me, do whatever you got to do if you need any help with anything. Bill, I'm sure the same goes for you. So let's dive in. Our little quick question here. How is your fantasy football season going to this point? Bill, I'll let you kick it off. You want to talk about kind of like, I don't know if you want to say your best league, your worst league, a little of both,
I went a different approach this year. I played in a lot more dynasties than redraft leagues because of the whole entire COVID situation. I didn't want to really deal with that in a redraft league. But dynasty league so far, my main team that I really care about the most is the home league. I'm 6-6 so far. I got a big matchup going against another 6-6 team. So this potentially is for the last playoff spot. That team, kind of a little bit scared going into this week. We have to start 4 flex, so it's pretty hard to get 4 flex in with a 2 QB league. So there's some very thin plays week to week. The next league that I'm in that I'll give the viewers a little bit that we talk about a lot is the Brewski League. Just made a trade in that league. Not really liked by the other league mates. I actually traded Keyshawn Vaughn and CJ Uzman for Jordan Atkins and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I really need a flex spot for this week, and I pretty confident in Marquez Valdez-Scantling's spot against the Texans. That's going to be a really big shootout game this week. And then Quarantine Crazy, our home league that I have with you as you being the commissioner. Kind of in a weird spot. Don't know what we really want to do. Most of my teams are kind of competing, and then this is the only one that isn't really. So I don't know if I want to have fun and kind of blow it up and trade some stuff away and go with the rebuilding method, or feel like we can pick up a couple more wins throughout these next couple of weeks because I have a pretty weak schedule coming up. How about you, Rob?
Just to hit on that Quarantine Crazy League, I don't know what your record is. It's not great, right? It's
2-4.
2-4. I believe at the moment I'm 4-2 in that league. So I see a comment here from Detroit Beastie. Hey, Rob, ask Billy about our head-to-head matchup on FanDuel Sunday. I actually saw that posted by Chris and Bill. Do you want to just talk about it a little bit, or do you just want to skip over it?
It was pretty dope, man. We were on Pub Sports Radio. It was the first week. We had a head-to-head matchup. Detroit Beastie. He called it on the video, man. He said he was going to swipe me off the slate, man. He definitely did. He had some crazy calls last week. I tailed him on that DeAndre Swift play, played him in my Millionaire Maker lineup this week. He had him in that lineup. It was a pretty fun time. I know we'll definitely be able to do it again, either this season or next season. Chris is definitely one of the first people that we're going to have on the In the Cage series, and definitely going to be one of the regulars on that one. So, Chris, make sure you check out his fantasy bottom of the barrel weekly article. Always one of my FanDuel favorites, because I've been playing on a lot more FanDuel than DraftKings this year, surprisingly.
I feel me can't say so. I've just been kind of living in the low end prop betting area. I'm fine making $50 a week and just stacking it up little by little, and then at the end of the season I'll be pretty fine. But you saw Detroit BC said had a blast. Let's run it back week 7, and I'm sure we'll see that on Twitter as well. Regardless of whether you win, lose, someone's going to be gloating about it. So
yeah, pay for Chris's lunch Monday, man.
I feel. I would say let me get in on it, but you guys are the DFS wizards, and I feel like I'll just kind of, bring up the rear every week. I'm not trying to lose all my money every week, so yeah. Before Chris had commented, I was going to mention the Quarantine Crazy League that that you had mentioned you were 2-4 in. I'm 4-2 in, and I'm doing pretty well in that. It kind of hurts with Le'Veon Bell signing in Kansas City, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire being on my team, but then again I have James Conner, Dalvin Cook, and Joe Mixon still. So. And we only start one flex outside of 2 running backs, so I'm going to have to bench one of them. Maybe it's just going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire by chance. You mentioned also potentially blowing it up and rebuilding. I'm in a Dynasty league with a few great names on Twitter, both at him and her sports. Like, there's 2 of them that run the one account, so they're both in that. Both of the fantasy analyzers, which you can find, I believe, at Fantasy Analyzers on Twitter, at Roto Lounge. There's a decent amount of great people in that league. And I'm full rebuild in that league. But currently I'm projected to have, I checked it earlier, I have 4 first-round picks. And it's a 12-man Superflex league. And 4 first-round picks. I believe all 4 of them are projected at this point to be in the top 7. So pretty great draft capital for a rebuilding team, and I'm really hoping that I can turn it around soon. And I actually just made another Dynasty trade in a different league where I'm hoping to potentially win the championship this year. Kind of sold my future even more so than I already had previously. But I traded Daniel Jones, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Terry McLaurin in order to get Lamar Jackson, Chris Carson, and 2 seconds. What are your thoughts on that sort of trade in Dynasty, Bill? Now, keep in mind, it's 10 teams. 10 teams, Superflex, 3 flex starts along with the Superflex. I traded away Daniel Jones, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Terry McLaurin in order to get Lamar Jackson, Chris Carson, and 2 seconds. And one of the seconds belongs to the worst team in the league. So it is projected to be the first pick in the 2nd round, which in a 10-team league is almost like a first-round pick.
I can understand it, I guess, but not a type of trade that I'm really towards into or be more inclined to be doing. But
I will say
that known.
I will say that in that league I had Russell Wilson, so I feel like I have 2 top 5 options at quarterback now, which is great in a 10-team league. But not only that, I don't have confidence in Daniel Jones' future as the starter for the Giants with the way that he's played this season. And if he is not the long-term starter for them, I have no long-term starters beyond Russell Wilson on that team. Like I had Dwayne Haskins, who was another young guy, and he's kind of, he's definitely done in Washington. I also have Marcus Mariota, but he's with the way that Derek Carr is playing, he's just going to stay at backup. And then I had like Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tyrod Taylor and Alex Smith. Like no sort of future plays. So Lamar Jackson's still only 23. I feel like that, puts me in a decent position for the future. So I'm fine with that. Yeah, the kind of quick looks into our fantasy leagues, Dynasty. We didn't really talk about redraft, but I'm actually enjoying redraft this year. I'm having a decent amount of success, and I'm happy with it. We could talk about that more in the future, but for now, let's get into some of the news from this past week. Bill, I'll let you go on and talk about this news however much you would like, since it's your team.
This one is Zach Ertz and Miles Sanders. Zach Ertz is expected to be out 3 to 4 weeks with an ankle issue. The drop off of a cliff has been really bad for Zach Ertz of recent.
Yeah.
But if you're struggling to find a replacement tight end, I feel like Richard Rodgers is a pretty good tight end. I picked him up in a couple of spots in a couple of leagues a couple weeks ago, since he's the Dallas Goedert replacement right now, and he should be the full onslaught tight end for the next couple of weeks. Before we go into bye, the next upcoming weeks, we have the Giants and Dallas. So 2 really good starts for Richard Rodgers, and the same exact thing could be said for Boston Scott, who should be filling in for Miles Sanders, who is out. This is a really good timing for his injury right now, because the bye week that we have, week 9, forces him to be out for 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks. So when he comes back, week 10, he's plays the Giants, and he'll be 100%. And that's really nice to see, because Miles Sanders was a backup for Saquon Barkley at Penn State for most of his career. The only season that he got like a lot of snaps was his senior season. So he hasn't really been a workhorse back, but he has the profile of being one. But as you can tell, he gets a little bit nicked up from time to time. As he gets older and his body more matures, he'll be ready to take the onslaught of those carries and stuff like that. But Rob, how do you feel about the Eagles situation?
I actually am on the verge of trading for Dallas Goedert in a redraft league. I mean, I'm getting a lot more than Dallas Goedert, and I'm giving up George Kittle. So it's a little, more than just me trading for Dallas Goedert. But Dallas Goedert, like, I'm fine with for the future, because I feel like he'll be back after the bye as well. And he may even be back before Zach Ertz. Like, I think the initial diagnosis for Christian McCaffrey was 4 to 6 weeks, and I think this is going to be the 5th game that he's missing. And do we really know if he's going to come back next week? They have a Thursday night game, and then no, they don't have a week 9 bye. I saw that on Twitter for some reason, but he could very well miss 6 weeks. So it could be in that sort of similar situation where Zach Ertz is hitting the longer end of the timeline too, with his ankle injury. Then again, it could also be the same for Dallas Goedert. So, it's kind of a toss-up, but you mentioned the schedule heading into the bye. I also looked at the Eagles' schedule. Let me try and pull it up right now. But coming out of the bye even was pretty great for fantasy purposes. And you mentioned Zach Ertz falling off a cliff. I feel like that only boosts Goddard's potential value. So you mentioned New York Giants, Cowboys heading into the bye, Giants after the bye. Then you get the Browns, who have been pretty bad against passing options. The Seahawks, who have also been pretty bad. The Packers, not so great of a matchup for Philly tight ends, but then the Saints, the Cardinals, and the Cowboys to top it off. Like, the schedule turns pretty well for Philly. I mean, you can make an argument for Zach Ertz, you can make an argument for Dallas Goedert, whoever, but they're both injured at the moment. So if you can take some L's, I wouldn't mind. I would prefer to trade for Goddard from what I've seen from Ertz to this point this year, but I think they're both solid trade for candidates. Let's move on here though. Hopefully they're not long-term injuries regardless. And hopefully even Goddard can get back onto the field soon. So, moving on. Bill, I want you to take a look at this edit and tell me your idea on it. Shout out Clutch Points. I found it just surfing the internet, but
I'm sick.
Look,
and, one of my leagues I dropped Antonio Brown. And then all this news happened this week, but I don't think this is the one, because when he does come back, he will be suspended. So, what are we really getting excited for? And I'm the biggest Antonio Brown truther.
I believe that if he signed with Seattle, as it says here, he's receiving interest from them. Apparently other teams too, but Seattle was the one that was named. Would Seattle even put him ahead of Lockett or Metcalf on the field? I highly doubt it. So an offense that wants to run the ball more than pass it. They've been forced to pass it to this point, but an offense that wants to run the ball more and maybe will make that switch in the future, do you necessarily want the third passing option who's 32, hasn't really played football much? I think he's played, one game in 2 years. It's concerning, but then again, it's Antonio Brown, It's former, he had 4 or 5 straight years as the number 1 overall wide receiver. It's hard to turn that down, but I don't know. I'm just not really interested in buying into Antonio. He could sign with I don't know, what would be a great wide receiver situation to sign with right now?
Green Bay.
He could sign with Green Bay and just be opposite Adams and not even be the focal point, catching passes from Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. I'd probably love him then, but
right, right though. Green Bay would be the perfect spot. I don't think that's gonna happen. That's not that type of franchise to do it. But in Madden, it would work out very well.
It would work. I mean, in Madden, you'd just be airing it out every game, and it would just be Devontae Adams and Antonio Brown both hitting 2,000 receiving yards. I mean, Madden's a whole different story, but. No, I personally, I don't know what's going to happen with Antonio Brown. It's just kind of a wait and see thing, but if he's on waivers and redraft leagues, would you pick him up? It would be at least 2 more weeks that he would not be playing.
I'm fine with not picking him up.
I think it's hard when bye weeks are hitting now too, to stash him, Kind of hard to make that argument, especially when he could sign with Seattle and just kind of be the third option. So, Jonnu Smith this week, limited participant Wednesday after suffering an ankle sprain. So he is likely going to play this week. There was kind of some worry about that after he went out this past week. Discounting last week, he is the number 1 tight end in points per game. So kind of an important fantasy piece. We don't really have to hover on that because he should be fine and playing. Another guy who should be coming back this week, Deontay Johnson, practiced in full today, so he will certainly be back week 7. Do you think, Bill, that Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool can both have fantasy success on the field at the same time?
Yes, we will get into the reason why later on in the show.
Oh, I like that. I like to hear that. And then one final piece of news. Mark Ingram suffered a mild ankle sprain. He's expected to be back soon. They have a bye this week. So, I would not be surprised if Mark Ingram doesn't end up missing any games. Just simply, tape him up. He'll be fine. Are you adding J.K. Dobbins in redraft leagues for the speculation and holding him through the bye? They play Pittsburgh in week 8, so
Is
it's
a
not
year.
even like a great matchup when they come back.
I feel like J.K. Dobbins is a year away. Unfortunately, I feel like Gus Edwards is going to be the guy back there when, like not the guy, but enough where J.K.
He'll be
Dobbins is going to be a trap.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, definitely. Sadly, but definitely. All right. That's basically all the news. Like I said, it was a little lighter on news this week. Thankfully, I'd like to not spend our half of our show on injury news in the future. So that works for me. Bill, back to just you and me this week. So we actually have 4 hypes, 4 hates each, one for each position, and we're gonna try and get through this and give some great pointers along the way. Bill, you had yours in first, so I'm gonna let you go first here, talking about the quarterback position that you're hype on.
Yeah, the quarterback position that I'm hype on this week is my main man, Gardner Minshew. On paper, Minshew finally gets a good matchup this week. Garbage time, it all contributes to fantasy points. Since week 1, he's been averaging 308 yards per game with multiple touchdowns in each game. The Chargers give up the 3rd most fantasy points at the quarterback position this year. Minshew should be ranked in the top 10, and he has top 5 upside here against the Chargers. The fantasy community will be hyping up Justin Herbert, especially for DFS this week. He has a good price tag, but I like Minshew here just a tad bit more. I know the Chargers aren't a good football team, but they'll definitely give the opportunity to get those garbage time points, man, and it all counts in fantasy. How do you feel about Minshew this week?
I'm probably not like excited to play him, but I definitely don't mind it. Would you rather Minshew or Justin Herbert in the same matchup?
I would go with Minshew for season long, but Herbert for DFS, if that makes sense.
Is that based on price or is that based on?
That's based on the fact that if I'm going to play Justin Herbert in DFS, I compare him up with Keenan Allen, who's been smashing since Herbert's been in the lineup. But Minshew, I feel like, is a better just like overall. Like if I had to make a bet, I think Herbert would be favorited and Minshew would be at plus money, but I would probably be tempted to like bet the plus money on Minshew, if that makes sense.
No, I feel that. I'm trying to work it out to where I can see what Gardner Minshew is currently ranked, but
for the season,
yeah, like where he is to this point. I think he's 18th in points per game at the quarterback position. It's a little lower than where I expected him, honestly. Like I kind of saw him around sort of the 15 mark. I think I had him ranked at 18, but I was just had a little higher expectations for him to be a really strong quarterback too. And
he had a really bad week 1.
He did, and there was another week, the Dolphins week, I think it was, where it was not not the best thing. But no, I think Minshew overall can keep up, and I like the pick. I would start him if I had to. Personally, hold on, I gotta scroll here. My mouse was not working. But personally, I would play my quarterback over Gardner Minshew 10 times out of 10. I feel like you would too, but it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers quarterback. I feel like people are going to be a little scared off of Aaron Rodgers after last week, the absolute meltdown in Tampa Bay. But this week they play the Houston Texans, and you just gotta stay in the flames there with Aaron Rodgers. The matchup doesn't get much better, and it's hard to it's hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers when he's going up against a bad team. And it's not that the Texans overall are a bad team. Like, the defense has not been great. But Deshaun Watson can also definitely keep up in this one. And then the Packers' run defense isn't great either. So David Johnson will be able to run the ball. Like, I feel like this. I haven't seen the over-unders yet, but I feel like this matchup, like, if I had to guess, probably has one of the highest over-unders of the week. And I'd be willing to buy into Aaron Rodgers as arguably a top 5 quarterback this week based on the matchup, despite the fact that, last week was such a dud. So yeah, Bill, are you willing to throw out last week for Aaron Rodgers the same way I am?
I wouldn't say throw out last week, but I feel like with those type of highly stud quarterbacks, usually after a week that they had a really bad week, they usually bounce back very well. I do like Aaron Rodgers in this matchup. This is a really good matchup against the Texans, who have been one of the worst defenses in the league this year. Like I alluded to earlier in the beginning of the show, I just made a trade for MVS just for this week. Specifically because I think that's going to be one of the highest shootout games this week.
I feel for sure. All right, Bill, you want to head into the running back position?
Yeah, the running back that I'm hype on this week is Boston Scott, Philadelphia Eagle. With Miles Sanders being sidelined with the injury for 2 weeks, we can get 2 weeks of Boston Scott here. The Giants have gave up 26 fantasy points per game to backfields this year and the 9th most in the league. The Giants also struggle covering pass catching backs, allowing 6 catches and 50 receiving yards per game to running backs this year. Boston Scott, think of him more of like a Darren Rolls type of back, and filling in a role for Miles Sanders this week. He should be getting probably about 70 to 80% of the touches, and he will deliver flex value in a very shallow waiver wire this week. I felt like Boston Scott was definitely by far and away the best waiver wire ad. How about you, Rob? How do you feel about Boston Scott this week against the Giants?
I agree with you that he was definitely by far the best waiver wire ad. But I don't know. I'm just not excited about Boston Scott after week 1. I know week 1 it was against Washington, and Washington's offensive line or defensive line, was overpowering the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, and it was just, it's not comparable to what the Giants have been to this point. But at the same time, I don't know. I just feel like Boston Scott is kind of that complementary back where he's better in that role, and now you're going to kind of make him, I don't know if that he'll even be a workhorse, like I just I feel like I said, I feel like he's better as a complementary back, and I don't know what to expect of him in the workhorse role. I would love to see him do well though. I will be starting him in a few spots because I will be forced to, but I am shaky about it. So your hope in him gives me some hope for my fantasy teams this week. So that makes me a little happier. I wonder who you would prefer between your running back and my running back. My running back that I'm hype on this week has not looked good for a few weeks now, but matchup is everything. It's going to be Joshua Kelly for the Los Angeles Chargers and the Jacksonville Jaguars, man. Week 1 looked pretty good against the Colts overall, and then since week 1, it has been very, very bad for the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. And as I mentioned, Joshua Kelly has not looked great, but since Austin Eckler got hurt, we saw Justin Jackson sort of take on like a mini Eckler role, and then Joshua Kelly took on sort of the mini Melvin Gordon role, because obviously both of them are not as talented as the former two. So, I think that matchup ahead, and I think Kelly, like, he'll be in a position where he should receive a lot of carries. I'm hoping, and then he can be efficient with those carries because of the defense that he's going up against. Keenan Allen, we don't really know the status of Keenan Allen. Like he is injured. He may play, but even if he plays, are you super confident? I mean, you are.
He's been practicing.
Did he? I didn't even see that. I have to look it up now because I feel like I did not see him. Like if it, the back spasm. Oh, frick. Yeah. He'll probably play. All right. Either way, though, I still think Kelly is in a good position to actually be efficient. We forget that Kelly hasn't looked bad all season. He is, in theory, the future 2 in this backfield. Like Eckler's the clear, number 1. But Justin Jackson is not going to be a long-term answer. So I feel like this team is going to kind of try to get Joshua Kelly into a rhythm this week against a defense that he can run on. And he has had the more valuable sort of red zone touches too. So this obviously isn't me saying like if you're in a redraft league, a basic redraft league, go pick them up off waivers and go get them or all this. But it's more so saying if you're in like what we've mentioned before, a deep dynasty league where you need that third flex or something like that, and you're scraping for it, I'm not going to be afraid in that position to play Joshua Kelly. So it's kind of a deeper start, but I'm willing to take the risk here. Buy into a team playing a bad team, honestly. Bill, you want to head into your wide receiver?
Yeah, I'll head into my wide receiver. My wide receiver that I'm hype about this week is Tyler Boyd of the Cincinnati Bengals. He has received 5 or more targets in each game this season and has at least 5 catches in 4 of the 5 last games that he's played in. Burrow has had 4 300-yard games so far this season, and his career best game so far this season was against the Browns earlier this season on that island game, which the Browns defense, which Browns defense are we really going to get? Because they're also the same defense that limited Phillip Rivers and Big Ben to a combined 405 passing yards and 1 touchdown. But through the first 4 games of the season, they allowed 329 yards and 3 touchdowns. Overall, I think we're going to get the bad version of the Browns defense. And while I think the Browns might be able to win this game, I think Joe Burrow is in a great spot this week. And he's been showing a lot of upside these last couple of weeks. He had a really good first half against the Colts last week. I didn't expect that. And he's been getting the bad end of the stick these last couple of weeks in some bad matchups. But I think Joe Burrow and his number 1 wide receiver, Tyler Boyd, will definitely be a great pairing this week.
So, Bill, I saw your pick of Tyler Boyd, and I like the idea of it, and I think he and my hype wide receiver for this week can get along. But I wanted to pick the true number 1 for Cincinnati. It's going to be the rookie T. Higgins. He has looked phenomenal over the past 3 weeks specifically. His snap percentages have gone up. His targets have gone up. AJ Green actually had a little revival, but before that, he was just being phased out of the offense in favor of T. Higgins. And, the role that AJ Green played this past week, like it was more of the possession short route receiver, whereas T. Higgins is still getting the downfield targets. You mentioned how bad the Browns are against the wide receiver position. I think T. Higgins is in a great position this week to, he's been performing and he should be in lineups regardless, but now like he's been performing in bad matchups and now the matchups kind of align to the point where T. Higgins become someone where heading into it, I don't see any way that I'm not playing him. And I've been holding him in redraft leagues for a few weeks now. I haven't been confident enough to play him based on the matchups. And then I just look at my bench every week and I'm like, wow, T. Higgins still had a game despite the matchup. So yes, I'm very excited for T. Higgins in this matchup. I think he definitely can have a huge week. And I think his upside, too, compared to Tyler Boyd, is much higher based on his recent usage. Would you prefer Tyler Boyd to T. Higgins this week, Bill?
Yeah, the only thing that I don't like about T. Higgins is even though he's been very productive, he's still playing the opposite wide receiver role. And I just feel like Tyler Boyd is getting a really good matchup in the slot. The Browns have a real problem guarding the slot. So that's the reason why I only hedged Tyler Boyd over T. Higgins this week. But I do like the connection that Burrow and T. Higgins have been developing over the course of a season now.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Would you be interested in making that bet between Higgins and Boyd?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, great. All right. Count that one. I think it's been a few weeks since we've made a bet, so that actually works for me. Beautiful. All right, Bill, you want to talk about the tight end position for our final hype?
Yeah, the final hype here at the tight end position is Cleveland Austin Hooper. He has finally shown some consistency this year. He has scored double-digit fantasy points in three consecutive games, and he gets a good matchup here against the Bengals, who have allowed the seventh most fantasy points to the tight end position this year. It's not going to be the sexiest of starts, but Tyler Boyd has been playing pretty well of recent. Not much else to say other than that. How do you feel about Austin Hooper this week? Would you be inclined to start Austin Hooper or who's Miami play this week? Or are they on bye?
They're on bye.
They are on bye. Would you rather play Austin Hooper or I'm trying to think of a good matchup? Austin Hooper or Trey Burton?
They are also on bye.
I can't even pick one.
How about I'll give you one. Austin Hooper or TJ Hawkinson, Detroit against Atlanta.
That doesn't count.
How doesn't it count?
TJ Hawkinson's an alpha. He's a fucking dog.
How about Austin Hooper or Hayden Hurst? Hayden Hurst going up against Detroit.
Yeah, that's the one. I would pick Hooper over Hayden Hurst.
How about one more?
Don't say Hunter Henry.
Dalton Schultz for Dallas going up against
Hooper
Washington.
over Schultz.
Interesting. I also would probably, like, if I was in that position, I would probably play Hooper. Though I do have, as my hype for this week, Dalton Schultz for the Dallas Cowboys. The Washington football team has not been great at defending the tight end position to this point. And while the entire Cowboys offense did not look great last week, I buy into the idea that that Andy Dalton is more like, how do you say? Like he's more of the type to try and target the safe Dalton Schultz sort of guy, you know? Like, if that makes sense. Like I feel like he's not going to be like a gunslinger and trying to go super far downfield to Amari Cooper. Like he kind of was forced to last week with how the game went against Arizona. Then again, he could be forced to every week with the way that the Dallas defense is playing. But then, I just feel like Dalton Schultz will be able to succeed in this matchup with a quarterback who prefers to find that sort of safety route. And I mean, I don't want to buy too much into the Andy Dalton led Dallas Cowboys offense because it's definitely not the same as the Dak led offense. But I mean, how much would I have to pay you to start Dalton Schultz this week, Bill?
I don't know. It's a good question though.
The fact is, I would have to pay you, and that's not good. But if you're very desperate and Dalton Schultz is out there on waiver wires, I would not be afraid to go pick him up and start him over some of the other options that may be out there. If I'm gonna go take a look real quick at core tight ends and choose between Dalton Schultz and let's say who, I don't know, Rob Gronkowski. I don't even know if I really want either of them. That's kind of the tight end landscape. I don't know. I might even take Gronk in that situation. But beyond that, Logan Thomas, I would take Dalton Schultz. Evan Ingram, they play Philly this week. I would probably take Dalton Schultz. He's seen more volume. So certain situations like that. So I would low end, but I would be interested in playing Dalton Schultz if I had to. All right. Moving on here, Billy, done with the hype. Let's head into the hate. I'll actually kick it off with this one. And I'm going to hate on Teddy Bridgewater at the quarterback position. Going up against the New Orleans Saints, I mean, it's not a terrible matchup, but I'm just not really interested in playing Teddy Bridgewater. He could definitely throw these little screens to Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore, and they could just, go 50 yards to the house from them. But I feel like that's what you're kind of relying on. I feel like this is, going to be a game where Carolina is just going to have to, I don't know, they haven't been predictable to this point, but I don't really see them winning. New Orleans coming off the bye, favored among the Buccaneers in the division. And the Saints should be able to score all over the Carolina Panthers. So I just don't know how much comeback Teddy Bridgewater. Like, I would definitely prefer Teddy Bridgewater, who doesn't have to come back in these situations. I feel like he performs better in those situations where it's kind of like a even game script and he doesn't have that sort of pressure on him. And I feel like this is a situation here against New Orleans where you're going to have to hope for, I don't know that multiple big plays would be needed to sort of save a day, but I don't know. I just don't see a ton of upside with Teddy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Not really too high on Teddy this week either.
So how about you at the quarterback position then? How are you feeling on the opposite side? Would you rather play Teddy or your guy if you were being forced to pick one?
Teddy or who?
Your hate at the quarterback position.
I would probably play Teddy because he's shown a rushing floor this season.
That makes sense.
And that is different than the receiver that I'm picking.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely makes sense. Why don't you head into the quarterback that you're picking? We left him in suspense long enough.
Yep, the quarterback that I'm picking is Jared Goff this week. Jared Goff is a very inconsistent player. He's the type of player that won't win you a week, but he'll definitely have the ability to lose you a week. And this is definitely one of those type of spots right here against the Bears on Monday Night Football. I definitely like the Bears plus money. So that's one of the spots that I'm looking at this week. Chicago's a very tough team against quarterbacks, and they have not allowed multiple touchdowns to a quarterback all season long. And I doubt Jared Goff is the one to break that streak. How do you feel about Goff this week?
I agree with a lot of what you said. It's. I feel like they're going to have to rely on the. I feel like they're not going to be able to rely on the passing game in order to win this matchup. Like they're going to have to rely on the running game, if that makes sense. So like maybe I think it's definitely more of a Darrell Henderson week than it is for Jared Goff and members of the passing game. I don't want to get too far down the line, but I have mentioned in my hates as well that I'm not super high on the Rams passing game. So definitely agree with the Jared Goff take, and I would probably play Teddy Bridgewater ahead of Goff if I was forced to this week as well. So at the running back position for this week, as much as I love him, I'm going to hate on Jerick McKinnon a little bit here. Going up against New England. Yes, Mostert's not playing. Yes, Tevin Coleman's not going to be playing. But as I mentioned, New England, the matchup's just a little scary. I feel like this is going to be a defensive game where New England is just going to try to contain everyone they possibly can. George Kittle is going to be hard to contain for sure. But I don't know how much I'm willing to buy into the San Francisco offense. It's just weird. You watch the team, like Mostert looks so much better than Jerick McKinnon. As much as I've heard great things about Jerick McKinnon all off season, as he's looked good for not playing for 2 years. But overall, like if I'm fine with playing Jerick McKinnon if Mostert and Coleman are both out. But I don't want to do it in a tougher matchup where I'm going to have to rely on him being a huge workhorse. And then last week, too, you saw Jermichael Hasty get worked in a decent amount when Mostert did go down then. So it's kind of concerning a little bit. And I don't know how much I would be willing to invest in playing Jerick McKinnon in this matchup. How do you feel about McKinnon this week, Billy?
I kind of feel a little bit indifferent about that this week because I know historically the Patriots have had a really good defense, but they have been absolute dog shit of recent, and I haven't really been impressed by that team these last couple of weeks. And if Mostert is out this week, I know Jermichael Hasty has been getting more touches and stuff like that. But that's because Jeff Wilson's been out. And if Jeff Wilson's practicing this week and he's back on this team, it's very possible we might see Hasty in the third string role or even back on the practice squad, even though he's been upgraded from the practice squad. I know he got used a lot last week, but I think if Jeff Wilson's back this week, I think it can be a three-headed monster, and I think Jerick McKinnon's going to be the head of that three-headed monster. And where the Patriots are going to be exploitable at is kind of the stuff that Jerick McKinnon kind of likes to do. And I feel like a lot of people in the fantasy community this week are going to be talking about being down on Jerick McKinnon, but I wouldn't say I love Jerick McKinnon this week, but I don't hate Jerick McKinnon this week. If I have him in spots, then I'm going to start him, no questions asked. And I definitely do have him in a lot of spots, and I'm starting him with no questions asked. He just isn't like a DFS type of play for me this week.
Yeah. What was I? Jeff Wilson is going to be, or was on track to be limited in practice today. So he's
trending in the right direction.
Yeah, being limited on Wednesday likely means if he doesn't play this week, then he would be back next week. But no, I can agree with your points. I think New England is a little better than how they've seemed so far. I think it's kind of been, poor play to this point. I agree. But it's an adjustment, and everyone's kind of adjusting to this year, and it's been not fun for a lot of us in the fantasy community. But Bill, you want to head into your running back that you are hating on a little bit this week?
Yeah, the running back that I'm hating on this week is Kenyon Drake. I know I was on Kenyon Drake last week. That was just because of game script. The game script against Dallas, I don't know what people were thinking of. Dallas was favorited right before kickoff, and that was one of the most shocking lines of the week this week, and definitely exploited that. The Cardinals actually went to plus money at one point. Pretty crazy. But last week was a smash spot, and I put my money where my mouth was, and I played them in all my DFS Monday night slates. But I think this week is a different type of matchup against Seattle. I feel like people are really underestimating the Cardinals' defensive improvements this year. Budda Baker has been playing outstanding for them, and I think they can keep this game close with Seattle. And if they do fall into a negative game script, I think it favors a guy like Chase Edmonds more, who's been used in the passing game, rather than Kenyon Drake, who's more of the between the tackles type of back that they've been using him for. And also, Kyler Murray has basically a rushing touchdown in every game so far this season. So if they don't score multiple touchdowns from that backfield, more times than not, it's going to be Murray, then Drake, then Edmonds. But I feel like Edmonds is going to be on the field. They're going to need a pass catching back for this type of game. How about you, Rob? How do you feel about Kenyon Drake?
I feel like he's solid based on the workload. Like, he's got that floor. You bring up some good points. Like, we can't look at last week and be like, oh, Kenyon Drake, is finally performing how he should. He's back to being a locked and loaded starter. It's not that cut and dry. So yeah, I definitely agree with you that there's reason for some worry, but some people are going to be forced to play him because they're in that position, and I respect it. At the same time, I'm going to be in that position in a lot of leagues, so I hope you're wrong for my sake, but I definitely can see many worlds in which you're right. So not surprised. For me, at the wide receiver position, I alluded to it a little bit earlier, but hating a little bit on the Rams passing game here. Robert Woods. Last week was a terrible week for Cooper Kupp, and Robert Woods wasn't great, but he hit that sort of floor that he always tends to hit, caught a touchdown. But if he didn't catch that touchdown, you would have been pretty upset with the day that Robert Woods had put up as well. The Rams passing game was just not there last weekend, and I don't expect it to be there this weekend against the Chicago Bears either. So Robert Woods is someone that I am not really excited to play. Like, there's a decent amount of other guys I'd be more interested in playing. Bill, I'll ask you a few of them. How do you feel between Robert Woods and Jamison Crowder this week? Jets are going up against the Bills.
Give me the Crowder, man.
As
team wide receiver this season, baby. Stamp it.
Stamp it. Terry McLaurin for Washington.
Is that even a question? Come on, man. Dallas's defense is arguably the worst in the league.
It is Kyle Allen. I have to say that. I just have to throw it out there.
Kyle Allen didn't destroy DJ Moore's upside. All right, I'll take that back.
All right, fine. I'll give you one more. Robert Woods or Brandon Cooks. Houston plays Green Bay.
Woods.
Interesting. I might take the shot on Cooks.
What collision number one there, baby?
Yeah, but I mean, Watson's starting to cook. He's gonna have to cook to keep up in this one. So I feel as though it could pay off. I mean, who knows? Obviously, wait and see. But I'm not willing to bet on it. But I can definitely see it happening. How about you at the wide receiver position for this week?
The wide receiver that I'm hating on this week is I don't even have one.
Yeah, you have Juju.
Oh, yeah, Juju. The wide receiver that I'm hating on this week is Juju Smith-Schuster, man. Let me just say this. It's sad to see this, and I think it's officially time to say it. Juju is a dust. Through the first 2 seasons of his NFL career, he scored 14 touchdowns, but this season he's failed to top 69 receiving yards this season. He's became a very touchdown-reliant wide receiver. He has averaged a combined 9.4 PPR fantasy points in his last 2 games. Combined 9.4. Juju is owned in more than 99% of leagues. He's a player that you should no longer be trusting. With Chase Claypool emerging, Deontay Johnson coming back, and James Washington getting the deep down the field air yard targets, there's no more upside for Juju Smith-Schuster, and I'm really scared of his fantasy numbers this season. And I think it's about time for Dynasty leaguers to start putting the tier of rookie wide receivers ahead of Juju. And that includes the guys like Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, all those guys all over Juju Smith-Schuster.
I remember when Juju was a dynasty darling after his 1,400-yard season and it's just been all downhill from there. So sad. Hopefully, the future can change for him. But remains to be seen, and all we can do is hope. Time to close it out. Essentially, we have our tight ends here, and I'm gonna talk again about the Rams' passing attack. I like to stack these little things, and I'll take the easier one this week with Tyler Higbee. People have been clinging to dear life with Tyler Higbee, but he's really only had one game where you've been really happy with him so far this season. And it took 3 touchdowns to get there, by the way. So Tyler Higbee, as we've mentioned multiple times throughout this episode, but we're not on the passing attack for the Rams this week. Going up against Chicago, Tyler Higbee has not been reliable to this point this season. We've kind of seen both him and Gerald Everett utilized, and it kind of kills each other's fantasy value. So if they're both eating into each other a little bit, and they're going up against a tougher passing defense, then I'm not excited to play him. And like I said, some people have been clinging to him in the sense of like it's hard to find tight ends off the waiver wire that are worth playing, but I would play many tight ends off the way. I would be willing to play Darren Fells off the waiver wire over Tyler Higbee this week. Do you feel that same way, Bill? I don't.
Probably.
I don't know that Jordan Akins will play this week if he.
That's what I'm saying. That's a whole entire different question on itself.
Yeah. So let's say Jordan Akins is out, then without question I'd be willing to play Darren Fells. So, how about you finish it up here for us at the tight end
that I'm not hype on this week? These are for the Dynasty League truthers right here. Chris Herndon is dead, man. He didn't even account for 1 target last week in that loss against the Dolphins. He's only running 20% of the routes per game and playing on 55% of those snaps. He's been on the field as a blocking tight end, man. It's so sad to see those Chris Herndon truthers out there. He gets a decent matchup this week against the Buffalo Bills, but I am not starting Chris Herndon in the deepest leagues. And he could be bare minimum price. He could be negative money plus money. I don't care for daily fantasy. I'm not playing Chris Herndon anymore.
Would you be interested in playing him if Adam Gase was fired?
No, I would rather play Cameron Brate than Chris Herndon.
Ooh,
rather play Richard Rodgers than Chris Herndon.
That's the tight end dart throw right there.
Play Albert Owaguwale, wherever the fuck his name is from.
I'm not even gonna try to make an attempt to butcher that. So
because he's leading air yards over there for Denver. So there's a lot more other tight ends. Don't fall into a guy that you thought was going to be a sleeper coming into the season and keep on starting him because you like the talent of the player. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Just take your losses and get rid of Chris Herndon.
Sad to say, but yeah, I definitely have to agree, and it would be hard for me to want to hold on to him in Dynasty leagues, honestly, to this point. So, all right, Bill, let's finish it out here with our survivor picks for the week. As you can see, Billy's taking the Buffalo Bills. I normally put the matchups in here. I should have done that, but the Buffalo Bills, they're playing the Jets. And it's just the easy way out, but easy wins are easy wins.
I would say the Buffalo Bills have been disrespected and embarrassed in the last 2 primetime spots that they have been on. They should come out very hot against the New York Jets. One of the leans that I have this week is the Buffalo Bills first half money line and a parlay piece.
I will say that you picked the Dolphins last week against the Jets. And I had first dibs last week for survivor picks, and I really wanted to take the Dolphins, but I don't know, just something with the division matchup was skeeving me out. So I ended up
fucking Packers.
I picked the Packers.
You picked the Packers, man. You picked the Packers. The Dolphins.
The absolute meltdown of Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, it hurt me in our matchup here. I'm now 2 games behind you with I mean, we still got 10 weeks to go, but we're running out of teams here.
Oh man,
We're running out of teams here too, so it's
trying to catch up to
probably
me
good.
on this one.
I don't know. Well, I gotta hope for the Jets to win this week. I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles. They're playing against the New York Giants at home, and this is a team as battered as they are with injuries. They're going up against a piss poor New York Giants team, and if the Eagles want to compete in the division, I made the same argument for the Dallas Cowboys 2 weeks ago when they were playing the Giants. If they want to compete in this division, you can't lose this game. So, should be a win. Fingers crossed, because who knows with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm hoping that I can come back on you, Bill. I don't know, though. We'll have to see. Again, follow the show at Dynasty Force Pod. Check us out on YouTube, Dynasty Force Podcast. Bill, at Getting Bills on Twitter. Me, at Fantasy Force FB. And we hope you enjoyed the show today, guys.
Couldn't see my pretty face this week.
Yeah, well, actually, we do see your face in the avatar, and it's actually prettier than normal, I would say, if I had to say.
Ooh, Rob, don't say that, man. Kate's sitting right next to me.
Couldn't see me at all because for some reason the avatar picture wouldn't even load. But then again, if it did load, I would have just used my Twitter AV, so you still wouldn't have seen me. But other weeks, most other weeks, you will see us. So don't feel too bad. Don't miss us too much. We'll be back hopefully with cameras next week without issue. Bill, I hope you enjoy your weekend. Hope you have a great fantasy time, and I hope that you enjoy those fights.
Yep, man. Make sure you hit me up in Quarantine Crazy. We're looking for trades. We're tanking for Lawrence.
I don't know if I can do that because I have no assets to trade you, as I've already traded them. But other people have better assets for you. I'm sure. All right, guys.
Throw that one out there. See you guys.
See you all. Thanks again for tuning in. Catch you next week. Thanks so much.